Welcome to Foundation Talks, where real conversations build lives on a firm foundation. Rooted in truth, built to last.
Good afternoon and welcome to Foundation Talks. I am your host, Logan Vick, the admin pastor here at RCPC in Camden, Tennessee, and I am joined today by my pastor, Brother Simeon Boland, and his esteemed wife, Erin Boland, here on the tail end of the Mother's Day memorial service that we had on May the 10th, 2026, and an incredible service that we had, and just in lieu of such an incredible service and sermon by Sister Boland, we felt it almost mandatory that we have some form of recap and podcast looking back over all of the notes and the finer detailed points. So on yesterday's service, her title of her message was A Call to Rest. Here in just a moment, we're going to bring her on and pose some questions to her and let her retract some of the thoughts and ideas as she was compiling this sermon, but would like to begin by talking about her key verse, which was found in Psalms 23, no doubt one of the most esteemed and notable verses probably in the Bible, whether you are a churchy person or not. Most people can quote this, but it's the first three verses of Psalms 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. In her title of her message, A Call to Rest, she brings out these very finite points of how we are in a culture that is very driven by pressure, right, busyness, the very constant noise. And I thought that was one of the most key elements that she brought out, just the constant noise, the constant distractions, and how God is calling his people back to spiritual rest, peace, and restoration. So in our opening comments here, before we pitch it over to Brother and Sister Boland, would like to make this opening statement of how we live in a world where exhaustion is almost celebrated. It is almost revered by so many. Busyness is applauded, and slowing down almost feels wrong. People feel guilty as if they are not doing enough, if they're not engaged enough, if there's not enough sports events, if there's not enough activity in their life. But while the world glorifies this so-called side hustle, God still calls his people to rest. So our very first discussion questions with our pastor and pastor's wife: why do you think, and what is your opinion on the matter, why do so many people feel emotionally drained today?
You know, I feel that. Can I start? I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just kind of start talking right over her there. But, you know, everybody feels this pressure, I think, to constantly keep moving. Mm-hmm. You know, in our society today, busyness is celebrated, as you stated a second ago, Brother Logan. It's almost this thing where we put it this mantle, saying, "Man, look how busy I am. Look what all I got going on," it's this a trophy that we carry around. But I don't think we were ever really designed to carry so much noise mentally, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't think we're really designed to live our lives with so much chaos, because that's really what it becomes. It's just chaotic. Yeah. Everything gets to be intertwined, and we become emotionally exhausted, and we never really can rest. And that's what's so powerful about what she preached yesterday. People don't know how to rest anymore. And we're not talking, once again, I think you said this yesterday in your message, we're not talking about being lazy.
No, and I'm not even talking about taking a vacation, taking a nap, taking a day off. That's not even what I was talking about, although those are important things and those need to be prioritized. But that you can have daily rest. You can come home from your busy day and busy schedule and chaos for the day and still be restored daily in the Lord. So,
and because we don't take the time to rest, I think people carry around emotional baggage that belongs in the hands of God.
Right.
but we don't take the time to give it over to. I think that's what you're talking about.
You
We
don't lay
take
it
the
at his
time
feet
to rest in the green pastures. We don't take the time to let him still the waters. We carry this around. Psalms 46 says, "Be still and know that I am God."
Yep.
Right.
But our culture fears stillness. Like it fears the setting still. I'll be honest. At times, I'll sit at home in my recliner after working hard all day, and I feel like I should be doing something. Like, I shouldn't be sitting here. I need to be going.
Well,
I need to be active.
Yeah.
But and once again, that might be a different setting. We're talking spiritual here, but it's the same principle of our lives have become so active and so involved that we forget to make time for the spiritual things that strengthen us.
Yeah, and I do think, and this is just from experience, I mean, in some of the things I've done professionally and just in life in general, it's almost like we have been conditioned to think exactly what you just talked about. We always have to be doing something and accomplishing something, and not again, that is bad, but when you're conditioned to do something and that's not occurring and that's not happening, we don't know what to do with ourselves, and so we're going to find what we can do to fill that space, to fill that gap, when the Lord is really calling us. And I really felt like that's what He laid on my heart. I'm calling these moms. It was Mother's Day, but I think you had mentioned in closing, it wasn't just moms that I was talking, that this can be related to. We all need to, you're allowed to take that step back every day.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and kind of bring a last summary to that statement, I would like to add my own self. For all those that are listening and have time, I would highly encourage you to go back to our YouTube channel for Rush Chapel Pentecostal Church and look up the May 10th Mother's Day service. Skip past the music. I don't know that I did the best of job on for the music part.
Was great.
But if you get to about minute number about 11:35, Sister Boland began in incredible. It was anointed. It was timely. It was beyond all that. It was refreshing, and I know for myself, it ministered to me. It really helped me clue in of I'm carrying around a few too many things from time to time. So we move into our very first segment here, which is labeled "The Culture of Busyness," and the point that really is to be drawn out and expanded upon here is we live in a world, as we've all discussed here just for a few moments, it glorifies busyness, and far too many times, business often equates to we're doing something, but we may not actually be getting anything done. It brings exhaustion.
Yeah. Right.
Where it's like the two guys wandering in the woods. One is just following aimlessly, and the other guy asks, "Hey, where are we going?"
Right.
And the leader says, "Well, I have no idea, but we're making great time.
Right, we're going somewhere."
And so people almost wear this exhaustion like a badge of honor.
Yep.
And so our discussion point here is society often measures this worth by our productivity. Social media creates pressure to constantly achieve and to reach and to go and to glean and to press on. And many people feel guilty when they slow down. And constant activity can distract from our spiritual health.
Yes.
But being busy does not always mean being spiritually healthy.
Right.
Absolutely. Your take.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what when you're so busy. And again, I think just to reiterate, we have 4 children. All 4 children are actively involved. We both work full-time jobs. You have your church. There's life and there's busyness. But when you don't take that time to keep yourself grounded and centered, that's when it can really start to, go downhill. Go ahead.
Well, people often connect productivity with value.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We think, well, we're busy, we got stuff going on, I'm doing all these things, so I'm getting things done, I'm being valuable. But oftentimes we're just staying busy enough so that the things that are really bothering us or the spiritual issues don't become uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because when you sit in silence and you really focus on some things and you allow rest to come upon you, you start realizing, maybe I'm really might not be handling some things in my life right. I might not be living the way I should be living. I mean,
an eye-opening experience. I'm carrying too much burden.
Yeah.
It begins to open your eyes. The moment that you feel any kind of rest, reprieve, time in real time in prayer. It is probably one of my most favorite times of the month. Our first Wednesday nights of just that is dedicated to prayer service. It is a corporate unifying prayer, and that first 20 minutes of just our very open format of prayer, immediately I just feel such a refreshment come over me because I realize I needed this. Now, not that it negates me praying at home in my own individual time with my own individual issues, but feeling that immediate reprieve of that slowdown. I have taken time to clear my mind, and I realize of just how much I am in need of this.
Yeah. Well, I think, when Jesus talked to Mary and Martha, it ties into this perfectly. He was telling Martha, hey, you're busy doing things, but you need to be at my feet. You need to be resting. You need to be connecting with me. We get so busy with life that we forget just to be with him.
Yes.
And it's not like what she was necessarily doing was wrong in any sense. What Martha was doing was serving in a way, and she was just so, I can relate to her so much because you have the good intentions and you want to make it, that was Jesus.
Yeah, that's a great
and
word.
You wanted to make it just as perfect as you possibly can for your king. And I know that I would probably have been the same. I would have been Martha.
We all are Martha.
And the Lord reminded her, hey,
let's take a moment.
Thank you, but you need to be with me.
Yeah, I love that. So it re-solidifies in our mind. Being busy does not always mean that we're being spiritually healthy.
Right.
It's not being. Yes, sometimes we are busy for the church. We are busy for our own personal lives. We are busy with our kids. But at the same time, it does not mean that we are gaining something at the end of the day, which really kind of it segues and pushes us into the next point here. And this, Sister Boland, was by far my most. I take that back. It's my second most favorite, and we're going to get to my favorite key point here in a minute. But this was my second favorite. It's that you made the very poignant statement. You said the enemy loves exhausted people.
Yes.
Because exhaustion weakens clarity, weakens focus, weakens prayer, weakens joy, and weakens spiritual sensitivity.
Yes.
And you can, I feel like there's several descriptions there we can use. There's exhaustion, there is fatigue, there is burnout. I feel like there are several plug words that fit off in there. And maybe we are guilty from time to time of just not being honest with ourselves and go, well, I'm not exhausted. We're fatigued, but yet we're just not willing to be honest with ourselves. And there's about 4 different categories that we can apply these settings in this word to. And not realize of just, I'm burnt out. I'm tired. I'm tired of doing this.
Yeah.
And that exhaustion is not because I'm sowing my wild oats or because I'm doing whatever. I can speak very directly about Chris and I's service here as worship leaders for 13, 14, how many, decade plus that it was of time of service. And I remember when you guys approached us and said, hey, this is kind of the pivot that we would like to make. I remember sitting down at the kitchen table with my wife and going, I'm so relieved. I'm so exhausted. I'm so fatigued. I'm willing to do the job, but I need someone else who has a fresh pair of eyes and a fresh pair of legs. I was so exhausted of the weekly routine and the constant burden it brought into my life. I enjoy serving. I enjoy the ministry. I enjoy seeing how it ministers to people. But at the end of the day, I never understood the level of exhaustion or fatigue, we'll call it, or / fatigue here, that I was experiencing. So, Sister Boland, I'll pitch this one back to you. What was your thoughts when you began to pen those words? What was your thoughts? Was it an experience? Was it an activity? Was it a life memory you had stowed away that you were like, this was me, and this is how I need to say it?
It was definitely personal experience. I mean, I think I had said that a couple of times throughout. When the Lord has given me something, it's usually I've lived through it in some way, shape, or form of another. And I mean, we have a very close pastor friend of ours who, he says, you minister from what broke you.
Yeah. Okay.
And that is where I was sitting with this, because just like you had said, I mean, I've been in ministry related in a burnout place a couple of times, and in life just simply overloaded. And, you know, looking back on this specific experience, I guess it's just, I just remember being in this position where I did not, it's like I knew nothing. I didn't, I know that sounds so silly to say, but I had no clarity. I didn't know. It's like I had to go back to what my mom taught me as a little girl. Okay, now just go ahead and open your Bible. Just pick out a verse. Like, we're going back to the basics here, because I was so honestly lost that spiritual sensitivity was gone, and that scared me.
Absolutely. Well, can I jump in here?
Yes.
I think we need to go down this rabbit hole for a second here, is that you can be busy spiritually, but empty personally.
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many, I've been there. I think every minister has, or anybody that works in ministry has been here, that, you know, I think Revelation says it best when it talks about losing your first love while you're doing works. You get so busy working in the kingdom, and you want to do good, and you're striving for excellence, and you're giving it all you have, but you lose connection with the first love.
Yes.
And that's being with Jesus. Not that you're away from him, not that you're backslidden, but you're so focused on the ministry. You don't focus on the relationship. And there's a difference between activity and intimacy. I think a big difference. I have found myself, because I'm a task-oriented person. If I make myself goals, I'm going to get those goals done. You get in my way, I'm going to go right over you, because I'm going to get them done. And I get so focused on the tasks, and I get so focused on the function of the church, that I forget about what I need as an individual. Sure. I can't get anybody else connected to Christ if I'm not connected to Christ.
Absolutely.
I can. Well, I'm not a singer. Lord, anybody knows me know that I can't hardly sing. I can get up there and yell on key sometimes, but I can get up there and I can put on a show. I can get up there and go through the motions. But to have that anointing, you got to have that relationship.
Yes.
And it's so important that we cannot neglect our personal time with God.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about the results of that. So that neglection leads to fatigue,
right? And
fatigue makes way for the volume of fear and anxiety being increased in our lives. And then, it's compromise is only answered with more compromise, essentially. So exhausted people often lose consistency in prayer and worship. And when we say exhausted people, this is not relegated to people who are just in the church or who are not in the church. This is populace at large. Exhausted people lose consistency in prayer and worship. And spiritual attacks are often amplified during this burnout. But the real statement here that propels us is the enemy does not always attack through temptation. Sometimes he attacks through exhaustion. The National Geographic, one of the documentary videos, I found it very interesting. There was this pack of wolves that were hunting these very large bison, and just pound for pound, the pack of wolves, the 5 or 6 of them, didn't even weigh, a fifth of what the bison did. But their tactic was that they would just constantly nip at his heels, and miles upon miles upon miles later, and this is a 2,500-pound animal. I mean, it is unmatched in pound for pound, muscle for muscle superiority in North America, and yet you have 6 dogs essentially that have just nipped at his heels, and they push him for miles on end, and he finally gets to a place of where he can't go on. He can't press on. He has managed to run away from his herd. He has isolated himself, and he's in a place of complete vulnerability, not because he's a weak individual, but because he is just exhausted. And I really, in looking back over these notes, that story really kind of stood out in my mind of going, how many times have all of us just gone, realize it has just been Satan nipping at our heels.
Yes.
Right.
We're in our routine. We're just pressing on. We're just pressing on. I'll make time for prayer later. I'll schedule in my fast on the weekend whenever work is done, and I've got time to breathe a little bit. Soccer season's over with, and I'm just all the while I'm just having that little nip at my heels, and I'm just pressing on
Yep.
And it's in those moments that we falter the most, and we allow our posture to be
Amen.
compromised.
I agree 100%.
So, burdens we were never meant to carry. There's something dangerous about carrying emotional burdens that belong in the hands of God, and that is a direct quote from Sister Erin Boland. Pastor is already formulating notes over his mind. I feel like plagiarism will soon follow.
I tried to talk her out of preaching it. I told her, "You preach something else. Let me preach this in a few weeks."
Well, I mean, it is dangerous emotionally and mentally to carry, those burdens because, well, for one, we were never meant to carry them. But as just the kind of person that I am, you want to help people. You want to be there for people. And then before you know it, you've taken that on yourself. And I'm talking to one of my best friends, and I just feel for them for what they're going through. And so then I'm taking that on, and then I'm taking on my teenage daughter that's going through teenage daughter stuff. And then you're taking that on, and you've taken this all on. Doesn't mean you can't be there for them or be that outlet for them. Then it's just as important that I turn back around and I go straight to the Lord. And hand that on over to him, because if I don't, I think about it and I think about it and I worry about it, and then I figure out, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said this or I shouldn't have said that. And it's like I said yesterday, the enemy just looks for a little crack in the door that you open, and he can bust that open so fast. At least for me, that's how I can only speak personally. And all the thoughts start going, and when those affect your emotions, and then you're mentally depleted.
Well, oftentimes when we take on the responsibility of other people, we feel responsible for the outcome of their problems.
Yes, that's right. Yep.
And ultimately, only God can control the outcome. Only He can be the answer. And I like what Jesus says in Matthew 6, says, "Don't worry about tomorrow." We try to carry tomorrow before even tomorrow even gets here.
Yeah. Well, and so there is a difference between responsibility and emotional bondage, though.
Oh, absolutely.
There's a vast difference there. Yeah. And so, and to your point about feeling those temptations or those pressures in your life, whether it be a spiritual attack or not, it's not a full surrender. It's just an opportunity, a moment of weakness.
Yes.
Right.
That leads to some people are trying to hold together things only God can sustain. Yeah. The artist wrote, I cannot think of the individual's name, but he simply wrote the song, "Cast All Your Cares." Cast all your cares upon the Lord. And it is simple songs like that and simple testimony that maybe sometimes are just kind of quietly swept underneath the rug or just pushed to the side burner. Yeah. But it is the simplistic manner in which God ministers in our lives that we seem to negate just a little bit.
Amen.
We realize of how easy and how simple it is of just a moment of pause.
Exactly.
There are times where we need extended fast. There are times where we need extended prayer, and those are necessities of our life. But maintenance items require simple attention. Yes. Mechanically, all of us drove vehicles here to the church today for this podcast, and yet none of us rebuilt the engine before we left the house.
For sure.
And the reason for that is because we believe in oil changes and fuel filters and topping off the fuel tank before we leave here. And so there's maintenance items. And prayer and fasting are those maintenance items in our lives that help keep those burdens at bay. Moving on to our next segment, it really just the grand topic of it here is the shepherd leads to nourishment. And Sister Bolton, this was my favorite. I without a doubt, I don't know whether I will teach this or preach this at some other point, but your quote here was, "God does not lead his people to barren places." Right. Now, we could spend a tremendous amount of time discussing all of the ins and outs of that comment right there, but you went on and you gave it some finality. You said he leads them to places where the soul can be fed. Pastor, what is I know you're just itching to give some grand word here.
First thing that comes to my mind, if you find yourself in a barren wasteland or in a desert place, you've taken yourself there.
Yeah.
Just like the Israelites, they were never intended to be in the wilderness.
Yeah.
Yep.
They put themselves in the wilderness. We
Okay.
oftentimes put ourselves in desert places. God has a promised land. He has green pastures. However you want to word it, He's got it ready for us. He wants to nourish us. He wants to. You said it beautifully yesterday, babe. That He wants those still waters to speak peace and safety
Yep.
and to calm our lives. And ultimately, what Psalms 23 is saying is that He knows what we need.
He does.
He knows exactly what we need. We don't need busyness. We don't need chaos. We need peace. We
Yes.
need joy. We need hope, safety, and to just relax every once in a while.
Yes. Because it goes back to that key word. I mean, Brother Logan was just saying it a few times. The key word is simple. Simplicity. It's not
Right.
complicated. And I know, again, just speaking from personal experience, I'm a really good overthinker. I'm really, really good at it.
Yeah.
And the Lord has to help me with that. He willingly helps me with that. I am the one that has to turn it over to Him.
Yeah.
And, that was just kind of the whole if nobody else took anything away other than, well, I guess the Lord's just not that complicated, then I accomplished my goal.
Yeah. Oh, it is the underlying point. It's the underlying point to so much ministry, into so many messages, into so many Bible studies, into so many reaches or acts of hope for anyone of any walk of life. Is this is easy. This is simple.
It really is.
Going kind of just trying to recircle back here to your point of He does not lead us to barren places.
Right.
Pastor, you were so correct. There's times and places and decisions that I have made that were lefts when I should have made rights.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's because I was put there. But I am thankful though that He made a way in the wilderness.
Absolutely.
There was manna that took care of them. There was substance there that made sure that they were fed and taken care of. Even in the midst of barren wilderness, there's nothing there. No one moves to a wilderness hoping, to plant, a grand vineyard or a wonderful garden. They don't do any of that because it is a wilderness.
Right.
By
Yeah.
definition, it is barren. It lacks everything that you need or that you think is possible.
Right.
And it's interesting of how when we get beyond what we think is possible, God seems to step in
Absolutely.
and remind us of exactly who He is.
It
Yes.
amazes me how I personally, as well as a people, as well as historically, we are always going to the wilderness. We are always going to Egypt, and God is always having to bring us back up
draw
out
us
of
back.
Yeah.
that. And because that's what He wants. He wants to bring us back to peace and safety.
Yes.
Yeah. His green pastures in Psalms 23, as David wrote so poetically, those green pastures symbolize the nourishment and the provision of God.
Right.
And the still waters represent, and they symbolize, rather, peace and safety. God's presence creates an environment for restoration. This is the greatest talking point of anybody, whether you are in church, not in church, have no concept of God or even the Bible. God's presence creates an environment for restoration. He is not enough for Him just to heal the moment,
Right.
but for Him to restore your path.
Absolutely.
The story of the woman with the issue of blood is probably one of my most favorite concerning. There was a healing that took place when she had enough faith to touch the hem of the garment, but there was restoration that took
Right.
place
Yeah.
when Jesus got done with the moment and He seen her faith and her intent. The shepherd leads weary people towards healing. He leads them to a place of peace, safety, nourishment, provision. And Sister Boland, once again, it sounds like I just tried to plagiarize, but I just tried to write down several of your quotes from yesterday.
Sure.
The presence of the shepherd produces peace of the sheep.
Yeah. I like it in, I think it's Acts 3rd chapter. It talks about the times of refreshing come in the presence of the Lord. I think it's Acts 3:19. I hope I'm saying that right. I'm quoting correctly, but in His presence, restoration happens.
Yeah.
I think it's God in those times will restore clarity. He restores strength. And I don't know if this is on point of what this topic you're bringing up, Brother Logan, but healing, I think, often starts when we finally slow down.
Sure.
We finally take the time to rest
stop.
in the green pastures.
Yeah, we stop picking at the scab.
Right.
Yeah.
And we allow healing to happen. That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we allow our soul to heal. And that's when we allow our soul to heal and to rest in what God has provided, which oftentimes is just found simply in just being with Him.
Yep.
Sure.
All of a sudden, the truth becomes louder than the fear, and His love becomes louder than our anxiety, and His peace becomes greater than our sorrow, and it's just resting with Him.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Pastor, you did a phenomenal job. So here's the next point. Are you ready? We must fix our focus, and when we seek God consistently, He continually leads us back to places of rest and restoration. So just our last final set of points here. What fills the mind shapes the spirit. Gratitude, worship, and truth have this lasting effect to quiet anxiety, and restoration happens when we slow down long enough for God to heal us, and consistent time with God restores spiritual clarity.
Yes.
Sister Bolin, go ahead. Bring us into the home stretch.
Well, I mean, I think you summed it up, pretty well. I mean, the gratitude will always help you fix your focus. If you don't know what else, if you feel chaotic and you feel like your mind is a mess, you just start picking things that you're thankful for. Again, it's simple. It doesn't have to be difficult.
Right.
And you start doing that, then you just can enter into worshiping, thanking Him for that, and loving Him for that. And then you realize, okay, I'm starting to slow down a minute. And then that prayer that you enter in, that's what's calming that anxiety. And it's like I said yesterday, truth stabilizes the mind. He's what anchors us when those emotions try to pull us apart. And, a lot of people have heard our story and some haven't, but with our son, there was a song. I love music, so I find a lot of encouragement, in listening to those songs. And there was a song that quite literally was called Truth I'm Standing On. And I listened to that after everything had honestly settled and everything was okay. He was back at school. Like we were doing all right. And it was in that moment where the Lord was like, that's why you stand on me. The truth is what got you through that, even when you didn't feel that. Because it's like my bishop's wife has told me before, feelings are not always truth.
Yeah.
And those are in the words of Sister Vic, and because she's so right. And because feelings are going to change. But that truth is going to be what remains constant. And He's just calling us back to rest in His presence. It's just so simple.
To bring out one of the verses you cited in your closing segment yesterday, of course, here in Matthew chapter 11, verse number 28, this will be red letter edition, so Jesus speaking, He said, "Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden."
Yes.
We love to jump out to the very end of "I will give you rest." It says all those that labor. That's me.
Yeah.
Right.
Now I'm not just the person that's heavy laden, but I'm in the engagement of it. I'm in the thick of it. I'm on the front lines. That applies to you as well.
Absolutely.
And if it's maybe that you are in just a season of surviving and all that you have to show for it is just, I've just got things going on. I have stresses and I have burdens and I have weights that have been laid upon me. He says, "Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, I will give you rest." So we leave our final word and our final challenge. The question we're going to leave with Pastor to sum it all up today is, what would change in your life if you truly trusted God enough to rest? What's the lasting word that we leave with people here today?
Spiritual strength is built in a daily relationship with Him.
Perfect.
And I love John 15 where it says, "Abide in me and I in you." Very simply,
Abide.
Yeah. You don't drift from God suddenly.
Nope.
It's a gradual, slowly drifting away. And, I guess if I'm trying to sum it up, you just need to abide with Him. Spend time with Him every day. And just like walking away from God is a gradual thing, restoration is a progressive change. It's a daily change. It's a daily God working on your heart. And And just let me say this. Jesus, I don't think ever called exhausted people to try harder.
No.
He never said, hey, okay, just keep working harder, keep doing it. He says, hey, come to me.
Yes.
Come to me.
That's right.
Let me take those heavy weights. And I think most people today would find peace again if they just would truly trust in God and just rest in Him every day. Pray every day. It's simple.
He's
Once
already
again,
created
it's so
the
simple.
conditions. Yeah.
Pray every day.
Yep.
If you don't know what to say, just tell Him how much you need Him. Tell Him how much you love Him.
Thank you.
Pray. Read Scripture.
Yeah.
Read the Bible.
Yeah.
Spend time with Him. And He will abide in you. You with Him. Restoration will happen. Peace will come.
Yes.
Hope will flourish. And rest is an act of faith.
Right, right. Well, so the outro statement I think that we just leave it here with is the shepherd still leads beside still waters.
Yes.
And he still restores souls.
Amen.
He does.
You know, he still restores. I don't think any of us were left to be tattered and left broken. I think there is restoration that can happen in anyone's life, but I do think a rest is such an essential part of that
Yes.
in any of our lives.
Amen.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Amen. Well, if you're listening to this, you have just heard the Foundation Talks episode summarizing our Mother's Day service for Sister Boland. She did an incredible job. Once again, I'll make one more shameless plug. If you can, go to YouTube, look it up. It would have been the May 10th, 2026 episode on the Rush Chapel Pentecost Church YouTube page. Incredible job. I know for me personally, it ministered to me. It was highly anointed. It was very timely. And so thank you, Sister Boland. Thank you for being sensitive. Thank you guys for taking time to be here. We wish you all best. Remember, pray daily and glean closer to God. Thank you. Thank you for listening.